in the wilderness, and Moses now stands in the wilderness as they're about to enter the promised land, and he is reminding this new crowd of this covenant that God made with Abram. It's found in Deuteronomy 8, chapter 17 through 18. He says to them, "You may say to yourself, my power and the strength of my hands have produced this wealth for me. But remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms his covenant, which he swore to your ancestors, as it is today." Of note here is the intention of God. It is necessary for the heirs of this promise to understand that the purpose of their wealth is so that God might extend his promise, this promise, to their children and their children's children. Namely, the purpose of material wealth is so each generation will have more than enough to live an abundant life. God's intention for us has never been poverty. Poverty comes through ignorance of the promises and the failure of one generation to teach and prepare the next generation. Proverbs 13 verse 22 reads, "A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the sinner's wealth is passed to the righteous." Ignorance of financial strategies to obtain wealth, along with a desire for instant gratification, is destroying our families, and this perpetuates poverty in our communities. How then do we ensure generational wealth is passed down through generations within our families? For that, we turn to Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 1 through 6. And it reads, "Ship your grain across the sea. After many days you may receive a return. Invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. If clouds are full of water, they pour rain on the earth. Whether a tree falls to the south or to the north, in the place where it falls, there it will lie. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. As you do not know the path of the wind, or how the body is formed in a mother's womb, so you cannot understand the work of God, the maker of all things. Sow your seed in the morning, and at evening let your hands not be idle, for you do not know which will succeed, whether this or that, or whether both will do equally well." This text has very important ideas for ensuring generational wealth. It covers business, entrepreneurship, investments, faith, and persistent action designed to bring prosperity. First, let's look at entrepreneurship or business. Note that in verse 1, the business includes international commerce. It reads, "Ship your grain across the sea. After many days you may receive a return." In other words, God does not limit his children to reliance upon the country of their birth for their prosperity. If where you live is not favorable, look outside your area, for the world is your parish. Jesus instructed us to do business through his parable in Luke 19 and 10. Interestingly, in an effort to instruct his disciples in the power of doing business and in the power of persistence, he says, "And he called his 10 servants and delivered them 10 pounds and said to them, 'Occupy till I come.'" Now this term in the Greek means to engage in business, to do commerce. Jesus is saying, don't, for instance, have revivals from church to church, but be gainfully invested in a business that will bring money from the world by the hands of those who are engaged in the business into the church, so that the church would never have to borrow, beg, or cry for a dime. I'm preaching now, let me get back to it. But this is a biblical case. This is the biblical case. Jesus wanted his disciples to work in their mission of discipleship as if it was a business that demanded total commitment to be achieved. Secondly, let's look at investment. Verse 2 of Ecclesiastes says, invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. This speaks to having, you've heard it before, multiple streams of income, not limiting yourself to one channel of income for your prosperity. Families have real estate, stocks, bonds, cryptocurrency, mutual funds, annuities, insurance products, etc., wherein they may invest. These constructs only increase through patience and time. It takes time to see the fruit of your investments, which makes them perfect for passing on an inheritance to the next generation. In other words, simply put, you're not going to enjoy all the fruits of your labor in your lifetime, but you're sending up your timber for those who will follow you in your families. And third and finally, faith and persistence. Carefully note the wording of the scriptures. Listen again. If clouds are full of water, they pour rain on the earth. Whether a tree falls to the south or to the north, in the place where it falls, there it will lie. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. As you do not know the path of the wind or how the body is formed in a mother's womb, so you cannot understand the work of God, the maker of all things. What is your role since you can't determine the how? It says, sow your seed. That's your role. Sow your seed in the morning, and at evening let your hands be idle. Let not your hands be idle. For you do not know which will succeed, whether this or that, or whether both will do equally well. The scriptures are teaching us that only through staying the course of your vision for your family will your goals have a chance of being successful. Only by paying attention to the opportunities available within your city, state, interstate, or international can you maximize the prosperity available for your family. And none of these respond to getting rich quickly. Each of these is intergenerational. Each of these lends itself to intergenerational application. Instant gratification is not God's method for creating and sustaining generational wealth through investments and entrepreneurship. Hard work over many generations ensures that the promises God has made are realized. So this evening we have asked the entrepreneurs on our panel to share with us the process they followed, the inspiration they received, and the mentors that propelled them to the place where they are now as they achieve generational wealth for their families, aim to be a blessing to them and the communities in which they reside. So we would like for you to listen, to jot down your questions, for we will have space for you to ask questions. But we want this to be a learned occasion where we will not have to worry so much about these high gas prices and about the cost of medicine, and where our children will not be limited in their aspirations because we did not pay attention to the laws of prosperity. Thank you. God bless you.